protester. You said they'd be straight away chucked off the roof and murdered.
That's what I just said.
They don't know. That's sorry. I know what you said. Sorry.
Do you want to say it as well, right?
Yeah.
Well, look, Steve, thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
No, Steve.
All right, look, it was much better than last week's. I mean, only marginally.
Yeah, Steve, can I just say
in a good way.
Steve, you covered yourself in glory this week. Thank you very much, and make sure you ring in again next week when James is back. And look, we didn't even cut you off. Right, from one disruptive mob to another, Just Stop Oil. We're joined in the studio by Dr. Kush. Just Stop Oil are going to be banned, Dr. Kush. That's great, isn't it?
Not for everybody who wants to live on a planet that is just going to have a human civilization on it.
Like having the ghost of Jim Dale.
Start as well.
It's like having the ghost of Jim Dale in the studio. Right, Kush, all seriousness. So there's a lobby, an advisor to government that said that Just Stop Oil should be banned because they are akin to a terrorist organisation. I guess that as you're a spokesperson for Just Stop Oil, you disagree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work as a doctor in the NHS. So I see my duty to protect people's health, people's lives.
Not from climate, though.
Well, from any threat to their health, and actually
any threat.
Yeah,
that's not what doctors do. That's not your Hippocratic oath.
Any threat at all?
Well, me individually to my patients.
What about nuclear weapons?
What about shutting a bridge when there's an ambulance taking a stroke patient to hospital?
You've invited me onto this show, so I'd appreciate if you let me explain my position.
Yeah,
right.
This is a challenge to your position.
So I see it as my role to protect people's health, right? The climate crisis has been described by leading medical journals as the biggest threat to health.
But not all.
I see it as the job of the government to protect the public, right? I actually think that's probably the most fundamental thing that the government should do, right? Yes. And just last week, they got found for the second time, 2 years in a row, to have unlawfully broken the laws that they set, saying that they were going to protect people, because their own climate action plans are not credible.
But we've done more than just about any other Western developed nation to get carbon emissions down.
Yep, and some of that is actually sending our manufacturing overseas to places like China.
But our contribution to global carbon is just 1% of the total.
Currently.
Yes.
And yet the effect that the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has is what is the cumulative effect?
0.004% of the atmosphere.
Cumulative effect since the Industrial Revolution. Do you know how much we've contributed?
It's 0.004%
since the Industrial Revolution started.
Yeah,
5%.
Right,
and yet our population is 1%. So actually, we've had 5 times greater impact on the climate than our population.
Okay. So you don't think Just Stop Oil should be banned as a terrorist organisation? And I have sympathy with that because I'm an advocate of free speech. However, Just Stop Oil go too far. Surely you agree that. So the fact that they disrupt people going to work, they've killed people on their way to, ironically, hospitals that are on their way
they killed a doctor.
Treated. How do you square that circle?
Yeah, well, so let me ask you, right? I have committed my life to protecting health, right?
Yeah.
And yet I still think it is justifiable to take disruptive action in order to raise an alarm about a much greater threat.
But to endanger
why do you think...
So they're sacrificed, these people that died were sacrificed, they're like martyred to the cause, to their lives. It was all right that they've died in these accidents.
It's not all right.
Well, no, but it's worth it because it's a bigger cause, is what you're saying.
I feel...
That's terrorism, isn't it?
I feel absolutely awful.
Well, of course, terrorists say that. The IRA would have said that. All terrorists go, this is terrible, we've had to do this, but we've got no choice. It's terrorism, this is no different. You're killing people going, it's terrible, we have to do this.
The reason it's being suggested that Just Stop Oil should be banned is because they are akin to a terrorist organisation. Let me just read you the Oxford English Dictionary definition of terrorism. The unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims.
That's what you do.
Violence
That's Just Stop Oil.
is the key word.
No, or intimidation.
Well, it's you've killed people. It's violence.
When has Just Stop Oil?
I'll tell you exactly. I'll tell you exactly. Don't worry. I've got
intense.
No, not intentionally.
Here,
but the IRA could say they meant to did a warning. There was never people weren't meant to be nearby, but they got killed. That's terrorism. When they did the Dartford Bridge, a couple of women they had to go. They had a little accident.
Are you honestly telling me you think I'm a terrorist?
I'm saying this.
It sounds like you're supporting the advocacy of using terrorist tactics.
Deaths happen because of the actions. This is what I'm saying. The Dartford Bridge, they had people, so they had to divert, and they killed. They went into each other, and they went on the hard shoulder and were killed on the hard shoulder. There was a woman who got a stroke. The IRA blew up a bridge, and no one died by the M1. I think Staples Corner. They blocked a bridge, your lot, I think, it was, or maybe it was the other one, Globe, you know, the Extinction Rebellion. And there was an ambulance woman had a stroke, and obviously there's gridlocks caused by these events, and ambulances, you know, that will affect a certain amount of people who are having heart attacks and
what
strokes.
about the boss of BP?
What about him?
What's he going to do with it?
He's producing oil and gas that is being burnt, that is the biggest threat to health.
Yes, but so you are
People are
sacrificing those
dying.
people. You don't like it that you're sacrificing them, but you've got no other choice but for those people to die. That's what you're saying.
Kush, answer me something slightly
They are
different.
going to die. You've got to accept people die from these protests.
No, but I think what
But
Kush
our
is saying
intention is not
No, I
to
know, but
cause
you know
anyone
that it
harm.
will happen.
What
It's
Kush is
like
saying,
going around with a gun
hang
going,
on,
I'm shooting
hang on,
around,
hang on.
and there's no intention to kill
What Kush
anyone.
is trying
but
to say is
it might
that
kill
he
someone.
believes that radical action, even if there's collateral damage, is okay in the greater pursuit of his bigger picture.
But you know people will die in collateral
But
damage.
you know the irony there, the hypocrisy there is that as a doctor, you shouldn't advocate anything that puts someone's life in
Innocent
danger,
people,
including
yeah.
someone stuck in an ambulance on
Even
the M1
guilty
because they
people.
can't get through.
Yeah.
How do you square that with your conscience?
I square it by saying that I cannot see any way that we prevent the harm coming to the
What about
far greater
democracy?
number of
Kush?
people.
What about democracy?
So-
Why have you only ever had as a cause one Green MP elected to Parliament ever?
So
Why don't the people care?
the Green Party is separate to Just Stop Oil.
But they stand for the same
They
thing.
stand for very similar.
No,
things.
for
why are
Gaza
more people-
now. They stand for
Why
Gaza,
are
the
more
Green
people
Party.
voting for the Greens in your name, in your cause?
But what I would say is that democracy, as it is, has still led us to this situation.
So you think
I
democracy is the problem?
Politics in this country has failed.
So you're an anarchist.
I'm not an anarchist.
Well, you're saying you don't like
I want
democracy.
our politics and
Marxist.
I want the people
would you
in
describe
government
yourself
to
as
actually.
left-wing? Would you describe
I
yourself
want
as
the
left-wing?
people in government to actually represent the interests of the public.
Yeah.
Right now, what they're doing is representing the interest of big
But
corporations.
use the ballot box. Use the democracy.
So,
use
but
it.
no, but I don't understand how you're going to achieve that through any other means than democracy, unless you're advocating dictatorship.
Do you think peaceful protest is not a form of
Peaceful
democracy?
protest is fine.
So this
peaceful
is
protest is
peaceful.
fine. No, it's not peaceful. It's
It is
disruptive
peaceful. It is
and it's unlawful.
Killing people isn't
disruptive.
peaceful.
That is why
Killing
thousands
people
of Just
isn't
Stop Oil
peaceful.
protesters have been arrested
Just Stop-
over the last 12 to 18 months because they're breaking the law.
Just Stop Oil does not kill people. All right?
What do you tell us about what you're going to do to the poor travelling population of Britain in the summer with regard to disrupting holidays?
So I think your obsession is with the
You're the
disruption.
obsessed one.
No, your obsession
You're
is
the
with the
obsessed one.
disruption that
I'm
Just
not
Stop Oil
obsessed.
causes.
You're obsessed.
What terrifies me is what is causing real disruption
Yeah.
right now.
But can we just go back to the summer holiday
but
thing? What are you gonna
Canada
do?
is on fire.
We weren't in
right?
Canada, we're in Britain.
Yeah.
So in the
Northern
papers today,
Afghanistan
in the papers
is
today,
flooded.
it is reported that
In
your
this
lot, Just Stop
country-
Oil, are going to disrupt millions of people going on holiday. Are you
in
going
this
to do
country,
that? And
we have
why?
had record rain over the winter, and that has meant farmers in this country are not
When you say
able to
record-
plant.
No, hang on a sec. Right. So this is what Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion always do. You go back to record, as in statements, but you only go back to about the mid-1800s because that's when records started. Now, as we've just rehearsed with Jim Dale and won the argument, frankly, according to the audience, the world has changed and continues to change in a cyclical way multiple times over thousands and millions of years. So the Earth has been warmer and wetter and colder over millions and millions of years.
So
this is
you're
a natural
rejecting-
occurrence. So what
you're rejecting
what you're
the
suggesting,
consensus
well,
of 97% of the
it's
world's
not.
scientists who are
because you
saying that
choose to
humans
listen
are causing
to
the
one
climate crisis.
body of argument. You don't listen to the scientists that write papers that say, actually, we think that the whole heat carbon
So just
argument
because
is
you
the
can
wrong way
find
around.
a scientist
And
that
you,
says
right
that
back
the
at you,
climate
Kush.
crisis isn't
Right
real.
back at you. Let me ask you something
You can
else.
also find a
You're a
scientist
doctor.
that says
You're
that
a
the
doctor.
Earth is flat. That
You're a
doesn't make
doctor,
it
Kush,
true.
and you've signed-
97% of climate scientists
Do you still
are
sign a
saying,
Hippocratic Oath?
Yes, I do.
So
Well, we
you-
don't sign it, but we say it.
But you take a Hippocratic Oath,
Yeah.
which is to protect people
Yeah.
that are in your care. Let's assume that all of the oil and the gas is switched off tomorrow.
But
and
that's not what
therefore-
we're asking
Well, you
for.
are. Because
No,
you're,
we're not.
You're asking
We're
for...
asking for an
you're,
end
you're
to
saying that
new
oil and gas
oil and gas.
consumption is improper. So tomorrow we turn off all the oil and
We're
gas
asking for an
electricity.
end
What
to
happens to
new
the
oil and
patients on
gas.
life support machines in hospitals throughout Britain?
Well, we will continue to be able to use
But they're
the
using
energy
fossil
infrastructure
fuels.
that we have,
But they're
because we're
using
not
fossil
asking
fuels.
to end oil and
So
gas
you're saying
overnight.
some fossil fuels are okay some of the time, but
We're
not other
saying
times?
that we need to end all new oil and gas licenses that have been granted since 2021.
So when does the gas and
that we
oil
need to
run
end
out?
all use of oil
So-
and
so
gas by
therefore-
2030.
Right, okay, great.
Right?
So we've got
we've
to it. So in 6 years,
Yes.
no oil and gas.
Yes.
How are you going to run Britain's energy network?
So the International Energy Agency has actually written out a detailed plan on how we can decarbonise.
It's flannel juice.
Hang on, in 6 years. Yeah, so at the moment, currently, if we look on the national grid, about 50% of Britain's consumption comes from fossil fuels.
Solar.
No, hang on. We're already using solar and hydro and wind. That's 50%.
How are you going to store the energy? How are you going to store the energy?
In 6 years.
How are we going to store it?
If we treat this like an emergency, this is an emergency, right?
So what about when it's not sunny and it's not windy?
We changed around how we operated during the COVID pandemic.
But what happens when it's not sunny and it's
overnight?
not windy?
We were able to change around all sorts of things when we treated things like an emergency.
Look at World War II. Look at the factories in World War II.
We were bankrupted by World War II.
In World War II, they changed from producing all sorts of stuff into producing military jets.
Kush, can I just suggest you're just a left-wing anarchist?
Can I just suggest that I am a doctor who is genuinely concerned about the health of my patients?
Putting bandages on people and not try.
And I think the biggest threat to patients.
I think you should stick to putting bandages on people and not try and solve a problem that doesn't exist.
Stop it, boys! Stop it, boys!
But what are you going to do? None of us in this room are climate scientists.
Well, I've got geography O level. What are you going to be doing? What are you going to be doing in the summer? What actions are you going to be doing in the summer? All our viewers and listeners, we want to know. How are you going to disrupt the roads and holidays for everyone?
So we are going to continue disrupting all high-polluting industries until this government meets our
Are you going to
demands.
block airports with stuff or drones and things?
You can visit our website, juststopoil.org.
Give us a little hint.
The plan there. You can come along.
Tell us what it is. Tell us what you're going to do.
Are you going to continue to block roads so that ambulances can't get through? Because if that's the case and that is on your hands, you're a disgrace to your profession.
You're a hypocritic oath.
Just Stop Oil has never intentionally
doesn't matter about intent.
Blocked an ambulance.
Speeding motorists that kill people don't intend to do it.
If I smack something on his head, I don't intend to kill him, but he dies.
You're responsible for disrupting people's lives and putting them in danger, and you're a bloody doctor, for God's sake.
And so that...
Are you ashamed of yourself?
That would be reckless if it weren't being done to try and protect us from something else.
For some mythical thing that isn't even a valid argument, and you sit there comfortable being a doctor.
You sit here and you're given a platform with I don't know how many viewers, right?
Millions.
And yet you are denying that human beings are causing climate change.
But you don't mind unintentionally killing people.
That is shocking.
You don't mind unintentionally killing people.
I do mind unintentionally.
Well, don't do it then.
I would never
don't do it then, because you are doing it.
It was the only option that we had.
You are agreeing that you wouldn't. So you're saying you wouldn't do, but you have no option.
I'm saying every action has risks. Right?
Well, you know it will happen.
When a patient comes into the hospital...
So you've just admitted that he doesn't mind.
Women in labour, people that have had heart attacks, people that have had accidents, have fallen off ladders. You're disrupting them from getting the very care that you and your colleagues have actually said an oath to protect. Don't you see, it's not just an irony, it's bloody hypocrisy.
Let me just explain it to you in a different way, right?
No, there's no other way of explaining it.
So someone comes into hospital with cancer,
You're a menace.
Right? We give them chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is a toxic drug, right? A whole range of them, right? Yeah. You would not.
But they're going to die anyway without it. But they've got no. They're going to die anyway unless you do it.
That is going to make their hair fall out.
So what's chemotherapy drugs got to do with climate change?
They're going to die anyway, so you've got to give them that. But these people who are going to be killed at the hard shoulder weren't those two women.
We would take actions that have side effects if it is to protect life.
Oh, so those deaths are side effects. Those innocent women that were killed on the hard shoulder. One was a doctor.
Are you a BMA rep and a strike organiser?
I am not a BMA rep.
Are you a strike organiser?
I'm not a strike organiser.
Have you been on strike?
I have been on strike.
Are you just an anarchist?
What has that got to do with the climate crisis?
No, exactly, nothing. Because I think you and your kind, the Greta Thunbergs of this world, just want to cause trouble. You want to see the overthrow of government. You don't like democracy. You know you can't get your own way using democracy, back to my point about there only ever having been one Green MP. And so you act in a protesting, violent sometimes, and disproportionate and inappropriate way to try and get your own way through force. It's not democratic. Stick to the ballot box.
I would love to have a very long and detailed conversation with you explaining the climate crisis, right? Explaining why it is a threat to you. But I think that what you've just done there is picked out a whole bunch of buzzwords that you think you can label me with that will play well with your audience.
It might just be because I'm right.
Or it might just be that we've not met before, we've never spoken to each other, and you have just painted a picture as to what you want your viewers to hate. I don't need to meet you,
Kush, to know what you stand for as a representative sitting here tonight by invitation of Just Stop Oil. We know what you stand for. You stand for a completely unrealistic mission that in 6 years you think that this country is going to run on solar and wind, which is preposterous.
We stand
and in doing so,
policy
you're
that
going
is
to
backed by
jeopardise
science.
the safety and the lives of the patients that you're supposed to be protecting in some political, sixth form politics type anarchic way, just to have a bit of fun. That's what it seems to me.
When every other method to try and raise this issue through all other democratic means has not worked.
It means that the people aren't behind you then.
Protest is still
but it means
essential part of democracy.
The people don't agree with you then.
The people...
Don't you think you should have the people behind you in your endeavours?
So the majority of the British public do want us to get off oil and gas. The majority of the British public actually agrees that we do not need any new oil and gas.
Until you tell them what it means for them. Everyone says, oh, of course, yeah, we all want green stuff, and then you go, right, it means that your tax is going to be doubled, you're going to have to live in a cave with no heating and be freezing,
you ask the question.
Freezing your
And what do you think is going to happen to food prices when these wheat crops and these potato crops
when there's no gas and electricity and no fertiliser, they're going to go through the roof. Well, clearly, because you're going to see
there's no gas,
drought,
but there is electricity.
Famine. You're going to see people
will be able to heat their houses with electricity.
Famine. You haven't thought this through. In 6 years' time, we turn all the gas and electricity off. There is no way this country can run. Particularly if you're advocating, and that's without all cars. That's without all cars.
The reason that there's going to be famine is because we cannot grow food.
All cars being electric, there's no infrastructure. There isn't the power to charge them. The country will grind to a halt. We'll end up in the Middle Ages. That's what will happen.
We're gonna face famine because of the fact that we cannot grow food on a climate that is changing at the rate that it is.
But we've done OK so far, and the population of the world is now 8 billion people. It was only 1 billion about 25, 30 years ago. So we've done OK in keeping up, haven't we?
Yeah.
Using gas and oil.
Because we've not yet seen the full force of the climate crisis.
But you still haven't answered how you think that sustainable energy is going to fill the gap left by gas and oil.
Electricity.
What do you mean? I've explained we can use solar. We can.
How is that going to work? How's that going to work in the winter? Where are we going to store
the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing.
What are we going to do in the winter?
The tide will still be going up in and out.
So
we haven't even got that technology though. It's not ready.
So the 50% difference is almost entirely going to be made up by hydropower.
It's cloud cuckoo land.
Do you know how much hydropower is used now? I think it's about 10% of total UK energy. So you're going to take that. You're going to basically 5x that in the next 6 years.
I'm not saying how we're going. I'm not detailing.
You're like Rishi Sunak.
I'm not sitting here detailing how the UK national grid is going to operate.
Kush, how did you get here today?
I got here by the tube.
Did you? Which runs on electricity.
Yes.
Kush, many thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
Now go back on your electric coal power.